Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel again. Another episode of Boxing Basics. Before I move on, there's a couple of things. First of all, apparently recently I have a large number of Latin or Spanish-speaking people that have joined my channel. So I want to say hola and bienvenido. Either here or here, there should be a PayPal QR code link. If you folks enjoy the content, if you enjoy the boxing basics, sorry, that's my cat. The boxing basics stuff that I do, any help you can to kind of keep the channel going and help me along this crazy journey that I've been on in terms of trying to train and learn boxing and try to get ready for an amateur fight at some point, hopefully soon. So today's episode is we're going to talk about fighting stance, but this time we're going to talk about the Philly shell. The reason I wanted to go over the Philly shell is that you may have noticed in some recent videos that I've kind of switched my stance, maybe about a month and a half, 2 months ago. First, I want to talk about kind of the basic technique of the Philly shell. Then I want to talk about why I switched and some of the advantages and disadvantages of the Philly shell. So first, I want to this without gloves, kind of show you the basic of the Philly shell. So the Philly shell, one hand is kind of resting on your shoulder, a little bit further up. With the gloves, you can see it better. We'll do gloves in a bit. And the other hand is kind of resting just to the left of your belly button. And you kind of point your shoulder a little bit more towards your opponent and you lean forward. So this is the basic of the Philly shell. So when you do the Philly shell, let's just make sure one more time. So this is the basic of the Philly shell. You kind of lean forward and kind of have some good movement when you do the Philly shell. For me, when you first start boxing, let me back up. When you first start boxing, a lot of people say, don't do the Philly shell because you don't have the right head movement, you're not fast enough, which is very much true. The Philly shell requires a certain amount of head movement and anticipation and seeing punches, and being able to block and have really good defense because we'll talk about that in a minute. So the reason I switched or I enjoyed switching to the Philly shell is that it gives me it feels like I have a much wider view from what I'm doing. So my cat is actually pawing at me. I don't know what she needs because you have food and stuff. So, let me just finish this. We'll figure out what you need, okay? So they put the gloves on. We can talk about kind of, for me, what the advantage of the Philly shell is and also what some of the disadvantages are. So, one, two. Now, the Philly shell, again, you can, now that the gloves are on, you can kind of see how it sets up. So this hand is kind of up by your shoulder. This one not across your belly button or not across your stomach, kind of to the side of your belly button. So for me, this stance, I feel like I can see really well. I can see where punches are coming. I can see the ring. I have much better ring awareness in this stance as opposed to this stance, which is, to me, a huge advantage because it allows me to have better reaction. And I'll kind of break down each advantage and disadvantage. The disadvantage is that this thing here called my head is a huge target now. And it's open. So, because I'm not high guard, I'm not blocking, it's wide open, which means you have to be really quick in terms of catching, in terms of blocking. We can talk about that other episode, get more into depth about how you block and defend with the Philly shell. But it means you have to be much quicker. You have to have much better head move. You have to be able to see, you have to be able to slip, roll. You have to constantly be on the move because otherwise your head is a big target that someone's going to aim for each and every time. The other advantage for me, the Philly shell, is that as you get tired through the rounds, you end up kind of resting your hands and giving yourself a little break. When you are in the high guard, whatever guard you want to go, your hands will drop as you get tired. And you have to expend more energy to keep them up. With the Philly shell, you can kind of rest them a little bit and give yourself a little break when your arms get tired. The other thing I like about the Philly shell, I would call it kind of a swinging pendulum thing. It kind of gives me a timing rhythm. So as I kind of rock back and forth, it gives me that timing, which is really good. The other thing I like about the Philly shell is that your jab comes from a different location. So when you are like this, the jab comes straight on, right? Philly shell, the jab comes from underneath. So it almost comes underneath at the person. The disadvantage is that when it's like this, the Philly shell takes longer to get to the target. Okay, because this is a much quicker punch. The Philly shell takes a little bit longer. So that is a disadvantage. One of the other advantages for me, anyway, with the Philly shell is that it puts your body, or it kind of puts your body much of a blade type of posture, as opposed to sometimes when you're doing a normal guard or high guard, you tend to, especially when you get tired, you tend to square up a little bit, which is not a good thing. The Philly shell, just because of where your hand placement on, tends to make you a little bit more of a blade towards your opponent. So even when you get tired, you don't square up as much because it really forces you to kind of into this position. So when I say that I see much better, I want to show you what that means really quickly. And keep in mind, these gloves are a little bit bigger than what you would compete in. These gloves are meant for sparring, so I think they're 1 or 2 sizes bigger than actual competition. And some people, when they train, have even smaller gloves. But when you spar, you have the high guard, you have the headgear on, which just kind of comes up to your eyes a little bit. You have the high guard. For me, anyway, it's really hard to see. I find I get this tunnel vision and I don't have awareness of what's going on. Yes, I am protected for the most part, so I can take some punches, but I feel like I don't have the same reaction I do as opposed to this one. I can see clearly what's coming on. The advantage of this is that if someone throws a punch for your head, and they're going to throw a punch for your head because most people are headhunter, you have kind of this automatic protection, right? Your hands are already up, you just have to kind of maybe brace yourself a little bit and take the punch. That's the advantage of having the high guard, and there's always trade-offs, right? For me, the other trade-off is that by doing this, I don't know what you need, but I'll get to you, the cat. By doing this, I feel like I've given my body a little bit more protection. I know I've said before that people are going to go for the head, but there's nothing worse than taking a really good body shot because that will stop you in your tracks. So this gives me protection against body shots. It forces people to the head, which I kind of want them to do. I want them to look at my head and go for my head because that gives me an opportunity to kind of move out the way and counterpunch. Sorry about that. What the cat needed was to go outside, probably to kill something, unfortunately. Sorry, little creatures out there. So, just to review one more time, I want to kind of show you what I do when I'm in the Philly shell. I kind of walk back and forth, get a good timing down, throw out the jab, throw out the jab, throw out the jab. Very effective for me anyway, switching to the Philly shell. Now, the trade-off again is that I have to get much better with my head movement because I have been taking some clean crosses to the head, which is not a pleasant thing. So I have to get much better about moving my head, pulling, slipping, ducking, rolling. I have to get much better at that, right? And even catching, so you kind of catch a punch, you block a punch. So one thing that you've noticed in the videos that I do a lot is that, Carlos reminds me to kind of, even if punch is not coming, just block. Get into the habit of blocking and moving your head. So that is boxing basics for today. Thank you again for joining. Muchas gracias por la gente. I think next boxing basic we'll kind of talk more about how to block when you're in the Philly shell. Maybe we'll talk about more about combinations that I throw out of the Philly shell. So again, want to thank you. Sorry, it's a very strange video today. All sorts of interruptions. Want to thank you again for joining me. Love to you all, and speak to you soon.